I do. I'm an illusionist. I perform in Vegas when I'm not doing the show. And yeah, I was a little younger, a little skinnier.
For years, the Property Brothers have been inseparable, on screen. But behind the cameras, their picture-perfect bond wasn't as flawless as fans believed. Now, Jonathan Scott is finally pulling back the curtain on Drew, and the truth is more devastating than anyone imagined. Join us as we unravel the heartbreaking confession Jonathan Scott just made about Drew and what it really means for their future together. The truth that changed everything. The twins shared their past conflict regarding money and how it affected them behind the scenes of their hugely successful HGTV brand. Although twin brothers Jonathan and Drew Scott are incredibly close, they have had their share of disagreements, including a financial dispute that once drove a wedge between them. Even though they are partners on screen, Drew and Jonathan Scott haven't always been on the same page off camera. For more than 10 years, Jonathan and Drew Scott have been among HGTV's biggest stars, with Property Brothers and a variety of other home renovation shows and spin-offs continuing to appear on the 2025 TV lineup. The twins collaborate on most of their projects, which might lead people to think they earn the same amount of money. However, this topic seems to be a sensitive one for the brothers. The Scott twins have a no-nonsense approach that helps them work together. Money can be a tricky subject for anyone, and it seems to have led to some disagreements between Jonathan and Drew in the past. Andy Cohen brought this up on his Sirius XM radio show, suggesting that their bank accounts must look as similar as the twins do. Jonathan Scott clarified that this isn't true, stating that he remembered years ago, because he used to film 3 times more than Drew. He would be there at the start and then come back at the end of an episode, while he was there doing all the work. After doing it for 10 years, since they've been on the air for over 15 years, he finally asked Drew if he could get paid 3 times what he gets paid, and Drew replied that he was never allowed to bring it up again. Andy Cohen confirmed with the stars of Brother vs. Brother that this was indeed a real fight they had, and it's pretty easy to see why. If Jonathan Scott felt like he was doing more work on Property Brothers, it was understandable why he'd want a bigger share of the profits. Drew, on the other hand, didn't agree that the workload was so uneven, stating that both brothers put in a lot of effort that doesn't make it to the screen. He mentioned that the network also pointed that out, because off-camera, Jonathan and him both handled the construction. He's the licensed contractor, but they've both been doing renovations for years. Plus, he was a licensed realtor and broker, so they've worked on both sides of the business, but they've really enjoyed their product plan. They have launched 12,500 products in the home market, and they have multi-family real estate portfolios. So there was a lot happening outside of what viewers see on the shows. So besides both twins being capable of managing both the contracting and renovation tasks, Drew Scott is also doing a lot of work off camera, even if Jonathan's contributions in the house are what viewers see on TV. It's easy to think that their salaries might have been one of the more controversial topics the Scotts have faced over the years, but being brothers means it's definitely not the only issue. In fact, there was a disagreement right at the start about the show's title, since Drew disliked the name Property Brothers. But beyond their personal struggles, the Scott brothers also share a powerful business legacy that changed their lives forever. Let's take a look into the Scott brothers' entertainment. Inside the empire the Scott brothers built. In 2002, brothers J.D., Jonathan, and Drew Scott started Davidian Production Group as an independent film company. By 2010, it was renamed Scott Brothers Entertainment, and in 2030 they changed their focus from film to television and digital platforms. As part of this change, they hired Katie Ruttendagel as Vice President of Development and Production in the Factual Entertainment Division. She had previously collaborated with the brothers producing the first episode of Property Brothers. Scott Brothers Global was officially established in March 2017 to serve as an umbrella company for their various brands. In 2019, they relocated their headquarters from Las Vegas to Nashville, which is a more central spot for their licensees and partners. The corporate office is still in Las Vegas, while the television production side operates out of Toronto. In 2018, David Dombrowski took on the role of president of the company. In this role, he oversees finances and manages the brand across all areas of Scott Brothers Global, which includes brand licensing, endorsements, entertainment, book publishing, and television production. Laura Aldrich serves as the Executive Vice President of Licensing. Michael Kim, who is based in Los Angeles, is the Senior Vice President of Business Development. Alina Duviner works in Toronto as the Vice President of Communications. Amy Mellon, located in New York, is the Vice President of Production Design. Established in 2010, the company develops television, film, and digital content for both North American and international audiences. The original logo of Scott Brothers Entertainment showcases the heads of the three brothers in this order: Jonathan, Drew, and JD. Initially, most of the content revolved around projects featuring Jonathan and Drew, particularly those linked to the Property Brothers franchise. Recently, however, the brand has branched out into media formats beyond the Brothers brand. Additionally, Jonathan and Drew created a pop country music duo called the Scott Brothers, releasing several singles and music videos. David Dombrowski is the president of Scott Brothers Global, while Josie Crimmy holds the position of Executive Vice President of Development and Production. Drew's wife, Linda Fan, is the creative director of the company. In 2013, the web series Toddler vs. Toddler and Property Brothers Big Day Off were produced and aired on HGTV and the W Network. The webisode Makeover Manor was created for Funny or Die and featured stars from Love It or List It, including David Vizentine and Hilary Farr, as well as Scott McGillivray, Ty Pennington, Brian Baumler, Candace Olson, Sandra Rinomato, and Jersey Shore stars Sammy Giancola and Ronnie Ortiz Magro. In 2014, Scott Brothers Entertainment launched a new series called Half Price Paradise for HGTV and HGTV Canada. They also produced Property Brothers at Home, which became the highest-rated series premiere on HGTV since 2009. Property Brothers at Home showcased Jonathan and Drew Scott as they renovated their family home in Las Vegas. In 2014, SBE grew its internal digital team to create more online content for their network partners. Starting in March 2017, the brothers teamed up with Chase Bank for a series of commercials focused on lending options for homeowners. They have also created pilots for 2 reality shows, The Meat Boss and Warming Up with Erin Heatherton. Currently, the brothers are working on a screenplay by their father James titled High September, which tells the story of a cowboy who was wrongfully imprisoned for 30 years and returns to find his family has abandoned him. Jonathan has also penned a documentary series about renewable energy. Together, the brothers have co-written 2 screenplays, one about a lonely hookup artist and another about a band of brothers from a rural town who embody wholesome values. With offices in both the US and Canada, Scott Brothers Entertainment is actively producing 2 original series for Scripps Networks Interactive, along with other projects. On March 6, 2018, the brothers introduced a digital video content platform named GuruHub.tv, which features curated content based on what fans want, showcasing celebrities, social media influencers, and emerging talent. Later that October, Fox revealed that it was working on a show titled It Takes Two, inspired by the brothers' memoir of the same name. John and Josh Silberman are set to write for the series and will also serve as executive producers alongside the Scotts, Kim and Eric Tannenbaum from the Tannenbaum Company, Austin Winsberg and Jason Wang. The Tannenbaum Company will collaborate with Lionsgate Television and Scott Brothers Entertainment for production. In 2019, Scott Brothers Global took over the brand and related intellectual property rights to Property Brothers from Cineflix Media, along with the rights to produce all future Property Brothers projects. As part of the agreement, Cineflix rights retained the global distribution rights, except for the US and English-speaking Canada, and will also participate financially and in distribution for future productions from the franchise. They will also benefit from additional revenue generated by the Property Brothers brand. Additionally, the twins created a musical duo called the Scott Brothers, which blends pop, rock, and country music, and they have released several singles since 2015, along with music videos for those singles. They also had a music video that has over 5 million views on Vevo. They released a cover of Flo Rida's song, My House, featuring Eric Paslay, which came out on January 12, 2017. In 2015, the twins launched an outdoor furniture line called Scott Living on QVC. By the end of 2016, the brand had surpassed $100 million in revenue. In early 2017, they teamed up with Coaster Fine Furniture to expand their offerings to include indoor products, which can be found at retailers like Lowe's, Costco, Orchard, and Bed Bath & Beyond. That spring, starting on April 14, They introduced their new line of fabrics to Fabric.com and Hobby Lobby. The brand aims to achieve $250 million in revenue by 2018. In January 2018, Scott Living unveiled a new high-end bedding line in collaboration with Restonic, and the following March the brand launched a custom frame program with craft store Michaels. In September 2018, Kohl's Corp has announced a partnership with the Property Brothers to create an exclusive line of furniture, bedding, bath goods, and home decor, set to launch in the fall of 2019. Dream Homes, an extension of the brand, creates luxurious, tailored architecture and home features for homeowners with budgets reaching into the millions. Every detail can be personalized, and a team of designers from Las Vegas offers design suggestions. Clients often request amenities like a helipad, a garage for 20 cars, or a theater room worth $1 million. Currently, they are only taking clients from the Las Vegas Valley where they are located. In 2020, Scott Living introduced their wallpaper collection in collaboration with the A Street brand of Brewster Home Fashions. In October 2018, the brothers launched Casaza. This website showcases showrooms designed by hand-picked designers approved by the brothers. Every item in these rooms is available for purchase. In the long run, the project aims to connect both featured designers and local designers from across the country for hire through the site. Notable designers include Jessica Davis from Nashville and Kaya McSwain from the Denver-based firm Kimberly + Cameron. Beyond boardrooms and branding, there's a personal story worth telling: Jonathan Scott's own path to fame and fulfillment. Let's find out what really shaped Jonathan into the man fans admire today. Jonathan Scott, beyond cameras and fame. Jonathan Scott was originally named John Ian Scott and was born on April 28, 1978, just 4 minutes before his twin brother Drew in Vancouver, British Columbia. He has an older brother named JD and is the second son of Jim and Joanne Scott. Jim had always dreamed of being a cowboy, inspired by what he saw on TV, which led him to move from Scotland to Canada as a teenager. He worked in the film industry as an actor, stuntman, and assistant director until the late 1970s. Around that time, he chose to focus on raising his family, and they relocated to a horse farm in the nearby town of Maple Ridge, British Columbia. James took on the role of a youth counselor, while Joanne continued her work as a paralegal in downtown Vancouver. On their 7th birthday, their father motivated the twins to find jobs. They browsed through the help-wanted ads, but eventually teamed up with their mother to start a business called JAM, which stands for John, Andrew, and Mom, that made nylon-wrapped clothes hangers. In interviews, they have shared memories of selling these hangers door to door, and they ended up selling thousands to a woman who sold American goods in Japan. The boys kept looking for jobs and found an ad that was looking for child clowns to perform in parades. After taking classes with the local Parks and Recreation Department, they got hired for $10 a gig and eventually earned up to $100 per hour. Jonathan got tired of putting on makeup and started to change his role as a performer. When he was a kid, he watched a magic show on New Year's Eve that inspired him, and by the time he was 10, he was making his own magic props. By 15, he was using a barn as a workshop to create big illusions. He studied the important books of the Tarbell course in magic and looked for professional illusionists David Wilson and Sean Farquhar, who became his mentors and friends. He became a member of the Vancouver Magic Circle and the International Brotherhood of Magicians, and over the next 10 years he won several awards, including 3rd Best Stage Performer of the Pacific Coast Association of Magicians when he was 16. After finishing high school, Scott went to the University of Calgary to study business management. Even though he was interested in a career in entertainment, the twins were not keen on being starving artists. After looking into the subject and getting some advice from their mom's law firm, they figured that real estate could help them avoid the financial struggles of being unemployed actors. In their first semester at college, they used a vendor take-back mortgage, made a $250 down payment, and bought a 7-bedroom house right across from their university. They cleaned it up and fixed it, then rented out the other 5 rooms, making $800 a month in profit. A year later, they sold the house for a $50,000 profit. They kept buying and flipping houses, making good money by doing only minor repairs themselves, and sometimes even living in the homes they were fixing up. At 19, Jonathan moved to Vancouver and started creating large-scale illusions, aiming to eventually put together a touring theater show. While searching for a management company to partner with, a magician who claimed to know a friend of a friend approached him. After some talks, Scott agreed to rent out several of his illusions to this guy. However, the man ended up stealing the whole production, ruining the show and leaving Scott with $80,000 in debt. Even after winning a lawsuit, Jonathan couldn't get back what he was owed. Feeling down and ashamed, he didn't tell his parents about the situation and ended up filing for bankruptcy, a choice he now regrets. Drew persuaded Jonathan to work with him as a flight attendant at WestJet, which was a small startup airline at the time, giving them more time to focus on flipping houses. Jonathan moved to the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology and the Professional Home Builders Institute to learn about construction and design, eventually getting his contractor's license. For 15 years, the twins worked on renovating and selling properties. During that time, they held various jobs, including busboy, mall security guard, flight attendant, store manager, and website designer. Still aiming for careers in entertainment, the twins and their older brother started an independent film production company called Davidian Production Group in 2002. After facing some bad experiences with real estate agents, Drew decided to become a licensed realtor, and Jonathan got his license shortly after. That same year, the twins launched Scott Real Estate Incorporated, a company designed to offer clients a one-stop shop for buying, selling, and renovating homes, along with design consulting and staging open houses. However, in January 2006, Drew relocated to Vancouver, giving himself a year to seriously pursue acting. As the year ended, he obtained a license in Vancouver and opened a branch of Scott Real Estate there. Meanwhile, Jonathan stayed in Calgary to manage the business by himself, sometimes putting in as many as 18 hours a day. He married his fiancée in July 2007. Before tying the knot, Jonathan and his wife frequently traveled to Las Vegas, attracted by the city's vibrant entertainment options. When the American real estate market crashed in 2008, he recognized a chance to purchase affordable properties in the U.S., where the economic downturn was more severe. Persuading JD to join them, Scott and his wife headed to Las Vegas that December, settling in the nearby suburb of Summerlin, Nevada. Scott launched a third branch of Scott Real Estate and, given the struggling market, shifted to leasing properties at just 80% of market rates to assist renters recovering from the ongoing recession. Simultaneously, relocating to Las Vegas placed him closer to live venues and chances to showcase his magic. He started looking for ways to revive his career as an illusionist, at least on a part-time basis. In Vancouver, Drew received an audition for a show named Realtor Idol, inspired by the American Idol concept. Although the show never came to fruition, when the producers discovered he had a brother who was a contractor, they created a show around the duo tentatively titled My Dream Home. This company would eventually film the pilot for Property Brothers. Several North American networks rejected the show before it was finally picked up for a full season by the W Network in Canada. After becoming the top-rated show on the network, HGTV, under Scripps Networks Interactive, agreed to distribute it, despite having previously declined the show. In the meantime, the twins assigned their private clients to colleagues within their network of brokers and trade professionals, while Scott paused his magic ambitions. In 2010, Davidian Production Group changed its name to Scott Brothers Entertainment, and the brothers grew it into a production company for TV, film, and digital media, with offices located in both the U.S. and Canada. The success of Property Brothers led to several spin-offs, such as Buying and Selling and Brother vs. Brother. By 2014, the total viewership for these shows exceeded 26 million. As their filming schedule became busier, they decided to stop taking on private clients. The franchise has also grown to include other standalone series like Brothers Take New Orleans and the 2016 web series In the Scott Seat. In 2011, the twins made the choice to sell their homes and buy a property together, aiming to create a gathering place for their extended family and friends. Scott, who was now separated from his wife, started looking for a place that fit all their needs, and they eventually bought a foreclosed house for $400,000. Scott was the first to move in, living by himself for 3 years before they began making improvements. With a renovation budget of $2 million, this project became the foundation for a fourth TV series, Property Brothers at Home. It was also the first production under Scott Brothers Entertainment. The show debuted in 2014 in the U.S. and in 2015 on the W Network in Canada. Jonathan Scott has 2 little dogs, Gracie and Stewie, whom he affectionately refers to as his kids. In a chat with People, he mentioned that he hopes to have kids before turning 45, and he would consider adoption if he isn't in a relationship. While shooting the first season of Property Brothers, Jonathan shared that he fell into a depression and didn't socialize for more than 6 months, but Drew was there to support him. The twins, along with their brother JD, follow a no BS rule, which means they are always upfront with each other about what bothers them, and then they try to move past it. They believe this approach has helped them maintain a good relationship. Scott was featured in a political advertisement in Nevada, backing a change to the state constitution that aimed to deregulate the energy market. In the summer of 2007, Scott tied the knot with his longtime girlfriend Kelsey Ulley, who worked as a crew scheduler for WestJet. After relocating to Las Vegas, he later noted that her job as a model waitress at a day club strained their relationship. They split in 2010 and eventually got divorced. From 2016 until April 2018, he was in a relationship with Jasina Kuznetsov, a Canadian radio producer. In an interview with Hollywood Life, Scott disclosed that he and Zooey Deschanel began dating after they met during an August 2019 episode of Carpool Karaoke. This news came just a week after Deschanel announced her divorce from her husband, Jacob Pechenik. Scott and Deschanel revealed their engagement on August 14, 2023 M. He is now a stepfather to Deschanel's kids from her previous relationship. But Jonathan's story is only half the picture, because where there's Jonathan, there's always Drew. While Jonathan carved his own path, Drew's journey is equally fascinating and deeply intertwined. Let's take a look into the other half of the Property Brothers duo, Drew Scott. Unmasking Drew Scott, the man beyond the spotlight. Drew Scott was born in Vancouver, British Columbia, making him the youngest of his brothers, James Daniel, and his identical twin brother, Jonathan. His arrival was unexpected for his parents, Jim and Joanne Scott, who had believed they were having only one child. Jim, their father, had moved from Scotland as a teenager, dreaming of becoming the kind of cowboy he had seen on TV. He worked in the film industry as an actor, stuntman, and assistant director until the late 1970s. Around that time, he chose to focus on raising his family, and they relocated to a horse farm in the nearby town of Maple Ridge. While Jim worked as a youth counselor, Joanne continued her job as a paralegal in downtown Vancouver. On the twins' 7th birthday, their dad motivated them to find jobs, leading them to start their first business, named Jam, where they made nylon-covered hangers. They sold these hangers door to door until a woman who sold American goods in Japan ordered thousands of them. James often renovated their properties and would pay the boys, starting from when they were just 8 years old, to help build and fix fences, decks, and barns. Even as kids, the twins liked to rearrange the furniture in their home. As teenagers, they went to Thomas Haney Secondary School, where Drew stood out in sports, both coaching and playing on the basketball and volleyball teams. After they graduated, the family moved into a new house in Alberta, just as the twins were heading to Calgary for university. Drew started pitching shows centered around real estate, but he mostly got offered hosting jobs, often alongside Jonathan. Eventually, Cineflix gave him a hosting opportunity for a show named Realtor Idol, inspired by the American Idol concept. Although the show never came to fruition, the producers were interested in Drew for a project tentatively titled My Dream Home, aiming to find a female co-host. When they discovered he had a brother also involved in real estate, they created a show featuring the two of them, which would later lead to the pilot for Property Brothers being filmed. This show was eventually picked up by HGTV. Drew and his fiancée, Linda Fan, documented a 5-episode series about the 12-week renovation of their home in Los Angeles called Property Brothers at Home, Drew's honeymoon house. Jonathan and JD were also involved in the project. The show premiered in November 2017 on HGTV and on November 27th on HGTV Canada. Alongside the show, the couple created a web series called Wedding Crafts with Linda, where they showcase do-it-yourself wedding crafts, including party menus, cocktails, rehearsal dinner invitations, table centerpieces, and wedding favors. This 11-part series started on November 15 and will be featured on HGTV's Facebook and Instagram pages. He and Linda also graced the cover of People magazine during the week of the show's premiere, marking what HGTV referred to as Drew's best week ever. Drew first met his wife, Linda Fan, at a Toronto Fashion Week event back in 2010. Starting in 2014, they began living together in a Las Vegas home that Drew still shares with his twin. However, he estimated that they only spend time there about twice a year, since Fan travels with Scott as the creative director of Scott Brothers Entertainment, where she manages their digital content, product lines, and marketing campaigns. Scott has mentioned that both he and Fan are workaholics, and that getting out of the home office is step one for a great date. They got engaged on December 13, 2016, and tied the knot in a destination wedding in Italy on May 12, 2018. The ceremony featured aspects of their Scottish and Vietnamese heritages and was highlighted in a show called Drew and Linda Say I Do, which aired on TLC on the 2nd of June, 2018. Drew co-wrote and performed a song for Linda titled You Chose Me, alongside Victoria Shaw and Chad Carlson, and the music video was released on YouTube on the same day. They have also shared their hopes of having children. In October 2017, they relocated to Los Angeles, California, and the couple has expressed their intention to raise their future kids there. In December 2021, they revealed that they were expecting their first child in May 2022 after a 2-year fertility journey that involved IUI and IVF treatments. Their son was born on May 4, 2022, and they announced the arrival of their second child, a daughter, on the 5th of June, 2024. Although Drew is not an American citizen, he generally holds Democratic beliefs. In September 2016, he showed his support for Hillary Clinton on Twitter. He also admires life coach Tony Robbins, considering him a personal hero, and has applied Robbins' concept of incantations, a method of verbal affirmation, to achieve his objectives. Drew is passionate about basketball. He grew up playing the sport with his brothers, but in a GQ interview, he mentioned that he was the most dedicated one, sometimes practicing for 4 to 5 hours daily. He played basketball in both high school and college, boasting a remarkable 43-inch vertical leap. Although he made it onto his college basketball team, an injury prevented him from playing in any games that season. Scott has participated in several celebrity charity basketball events, including Josh Hutcherson's Nike 3-on-3 basketball at LA Live and Staples Center. He has also played in the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game twice, winning a trophy in the 2012 Shooting Stars Celebrity Challenge. Drew prioritizes a healthy lifestyle, keeping track of his diet and exercising regularly. He holds a black belt in karate. He enjoys watching The Walking Dead and, starting in 2016, became a recurring commentator on the after-show Talking Dead, where he shares his thoughts on the series and zombie property values. On the 21st of September 2023, Drew became part of the ownership group for the Vancouver Giants. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.